Ever since he launched his political party, the Alliance for National Transformation, Major General Mugisha Muntu has been traversing several parts of the country, selling the party ideology and mobilizing ahead of the 2021 general elections, but with calls for a joint opposition presidential candidate. Will Muntu be on the ballot come 2021, or sidway like he has done in the past for Dr. Kizza Besigye? Tonight, we host Major General Mugisha Muntu to shed more light on this and many other issues. General Muntu, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. A warm welcome to you, and you are right now on the spot.
Thank you.
Let me begin with you, General Muntu, and I have a lot of admiration for you for what you do, but I'm also not going to be very kind to you because I have to ask questions. There's one thing that Ugandans know about you and also know about their country, that you are a gentleman, not cut out for the gutter politics of our country. What are you doing in this?
Well, we want to transform the country, the culture of politics. That's what we've been engaged in, some of us, for the last so many years. And we're not the first ones. I mean, since independence, even before independence, there are those who've been fighting for the very ideas we are still fighting for, but we've not reached where we desire to be.
But do you get that feeling from other people you talk to? They're telling you, look, the politics of our country, wallowing in the mudslinging, name-calling, this is not, you are not cut out for this.
But what nature of politics do they want?
But that's the nature of politics we have here.
As it is.
And that Mugisha Muntu is not cut out for this kind of politics.
The whole question is, what do they desire to see? I would like to believe that the majority of our people would like to see clean politics. I would like to believe that most of our people would want to see politics where people focus on debating issues, on discussing policy alternatives, on ensuring that you don't go into the gutters, as it seems to be now and has been for quite a while.
The whole politics in Uganda is right down in the gutters.
That's the whole point.
And they are saying, what is this gentleman, too good even to harm a fly, doing in this kind of stuff?
The whole point.
He should have been a preacher somewhere, a reverend in a church.
How did it get there? The very nature of politicians who like playing gutter politics took our politics the gutters. They like it that way. So do you really think that they'll get it out of the gutters and put it in a clean place?
If you found some animals wallowing in the mud, would you wallow with them? I'm saying that...
no, you actually don't.
You don't?
Because the moment you get into the mud, you'll also be as muddy.
What are you doing in the
But
mud? What are you doing in the muddy politics of Uganda,
you can play outside the mud and clean up the politics at the same time.
All right.
And that's what we are trying to do. I mean, if you notice that, it's not only me. There are quite many people who believe in the kind of politics that we are trying to establish in our country. That's the whole purpose, by the way, of the Alliance. Because we are a value-based organization. All the things that we are doing is to attract people who want to see clean politics. And then the majority, we believe.
Okay, we believe. I get it. You want to clean the politics. You want to bring in values. But, well, you and your ilk are no longer representing Ugandans. It's a game of numbers, but also a game of demographics.
I believe
it is people like Robert Chagulanyi who are representing the big numbers because demography is on their side. For you, that train left a long time ago.
No, I think you are mixing up two issues. One, Honorable Chagulanyi is appealing to quite a number of young people. Many young people would also like to see politics that is clean, because I mix with quite a number of them. Actually, one of our largest base is within the young people as the Alliance. We've got a significant number of leaders within the Alliance now at different levels. At the national level, you see some of the coordinators who are youthful, like the youth league, the ones in the institutions. And their desire, as much as it is the desire of those who are not youthful anymore, is to see that we have clean politics. So I don't think that the issue of having clean politics or dirty politics is around age at all. Two,
no. This is not what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm saying even though you want to clean politics,
yes,
and you want to put values,
yes,
and the generation where you belong,
yes,
you know, it appears your train left. It's now the moment and the time of people like Honorable Robert Chagulanyi and his people. And
yes,
in fact, you should just wake up and smell the coffee and
yes,
maybe say, let him be in the lead. Because the numbers and demography, yes, are in his favor.
In terms
no
of
longer to the General Museveni, General Muntu, or Kano Besigye. That train left a long time ago, General Muntu.
In terms of the nature of politics?
Leadership?
Because I need to have a clarification on this matter. If it's on the nature of politics, there are people across all ages who do engage in dirty politics, old as well as young. There are those who want to see politics played in a manner where there is respect for each other. Those also cut across ages.
Let me say this. We have moved away from the yes, dirty politics and yes, clean politics. We're talking okay, about now you want leadership. You want yes, clean leadership.
Yes.
And so are other people. And yes, I'm saying,
yes,
okay, maybe you want clean leadership, but perhaps yes, are you even the person to be trying to talk about clean leadership or leading, because the numbers look like they want a different kind of leader. You know, 40 years ago,
okay, I
when it
you.
was your generational challenge,
I get you.
You rise to the occasion and went to the bush.
I get you.
There was a generational call that people who are young, right from the university, you sacrificed your life and went to the
yes.
And that was your time.
Yes.
But now it is no longer your time, sir.
I hear that issue quite many times. I agree that 75% of our population is under 35 years. And I hear quite many people who keep bringing up that issue. And it's legitimate, because they are the biggest number, and they can influence the politics of this country in the direction that they would desire to influence it to go. In my interaction with a number of colleagues, even when we are building the alliance, I keep trying to talk to the under 35s, those who are in the party, at least to remind them that age is a critical factor, because at that age you are youthful, you are vibrant, and most times you have even nothing to lose. So you can pursue your ideals until their logical conclusion. However, I bring out these issues so that they can be forewarned or alerted that age is not the only factor. And I keep on bringing up examples. One of 1962, you know, when we became independent. The late Sir Sekawaka Mutesa and the late Dr. Milton Obote. One was a president, another one was a prime minister. They were around 35, in actual fact. There are quite a number of ministers who are below 30. The ones I can recall offhand is the late Ibingira, the late John Kakonge. They were under 30. So they were youthful. When we took power in '86, the majority of us were under 35. Actually, some of us were even under 30. Dr. Chiza Besigye was under 30. I was under 30. A number of these generals who are in the regime now were under 30. So age alone, if it was the most critical factor, then in the 60s, the regime wouldn't have lost direction. In '86, in our time, we wouldn't have lost direction. So I keep alerting the young people that they must seek for that which has eluded all the generations in the past, to know that beyond age, there are other factors.
But you realize,
so
but even the story, what you are narrating, you realize that almost every generation has come up to redeem itself, even though along the time they have lost direction. That in the 60s, it was the 30s, below 30s.
Yeah.
Even when you came in 1986, the same time. So even in 2021,
Yes.
the way how it appears, it's going to be another generation.
But
It's going to.
Should we not learn from our history?
Yeah, but
Should we make other
you cannot
mistakes?
ignore
Should
that
we make other mistakes?
The tide of change that is coming. You
Yes.
either ride on the wave of this change that
Yes.
is going, that is, you know, in the hands of young people,
Yes.
or that wave will bury you.
No, the wave can't bury us, because if you follow from before 62 through 62 until now, the common factor has been a desire by all of us to have good governance. So the issue is, how do we break out of the vicious cycle through the different regimes that have been, you know, in power since 1962? How do we break out of that? And therefore, we need to look for the factors that caused all the other regimes in the past to fail. So this time around, this effort, regardless of who leads it in terms of the individual, regardless of who leads it in terms of age, that what is that has eluded us until this point in time? Because if we don't get that has eluded us, it doesn't matter whether it is below 18s who lead it, whether it is below 30s who lead it, whether it is below 40s who leads it. Doesn't matter if the outcomes are going to be as negative as we've had in the past. So it's good that we're engaged in this debate, because if you make a wrong diagnosis, most likely you're going to carry out a wrong treatment.
Do you believe that really where we have reached is now going to take the UB40s, I mean Ugandans below 40,
Yes.
who are going to determine now the destiny of this nation? Because you did your part.
Yep.
And I'm sure there are many who will see you and you know, thank you for what you did. You sacrificed, you liberated Ugandans, General Museveni, General Muntu, and kind of basically, yes, you did that. But that only makes sense to a minority. The rest of Ugandans are not beholden to that talk. They do not know. They don't want to know.
No. You see, we have no problem in Ugandans at an individual level, even collectively, to choose the path they want to take. The only thing is to engage in discussions as we are now, to ask ourselves, do we have a common destiny? Are there certain things that we would want to see done that would benefit all of us?
We are going to get into that.
Yes,
what I wanted, we're going to get into that. We definitely. But I also wanted to show you that there seems to be a generational kind of gap. There seems to be another generation. Take, for example, with all respect, if you put any other politician today, pick them, take them to my town in Fort Portal or in Chenjojo, take them to Kabale. Probably General Muntu, Dr. Besije, or whoever, or Prime Minister Rugunda, probably people don't want to know. Bring Honorable Robert Chagulanyan, put him in any town in this country.
Yes.
Within 5 minutes,
the
town will realize that somebody has come. Because
which is good.
Because it's their time.
But it's good, and I have no problem with that at all. However, we are trying to solve a problem that we are faced with. Now, the immediate one for most Ugandans is the removal of Museveni. That's where most people stop. But we must also know that after Museveni, there's going to be a country to be managed. And therefore, we must attend the issues of how will it be managed. And it would be good if we had a consensus in terms of diagnosing the problem, and then hopefully also have a consensus in the solutions that would apply to that problem. Because if we don't interrogate those issues, then one thing at least I'm absolutely sure of is that this regime is on its way out. It will go. I would hate all of us, regardless of age, to have change and then get ourselves sucked into another cycle of the same bad governance as we have had in the last 57 years. So I think it is healthy for us to engage in these debates, to hear all opinions, but also we must know that it is a legitimate right of all Ugandans to choose in whichever way they choose. The only issue is that all choices that are made have consequences. And I think that's why we need to interrogate the kind of choices that we make, and how we make them, and the factors that lead us to make them.
At one time you were in NRM, at one time you were your Army Command, at one time you were in FDC, and now you are in Alliance for National Transformation. You know, what I have seen as a journalist and a reporter following you, it appears that General Muntu, either you are the most misunderstood Ugandan politician ever. And this is why I say this, because reading about your bush war struggle, that when you were either injured or something happened in the bush and you had to be brought back for treatment. Even when Dr. Milton Obote and his commanders knew that General Muntu is back, apparently they were not touching you. And that caused you trouble in the bush because you're like, how come? He is a rebel and Obote is treating you like his son. Recently, in the walk to work, when other colleagues were being tear gassed and harassed and beaten, the policemen and the army were saluting General Muntu. And everybody's like, how come he's not being touched? A mole, which has been used as a phrase, almost became your middle name. How do you cleanse yourself?
I don't have to cleanse myself.
Why have you been so misunderstood? If that is
the first one is I have to correct the error that there has been. When I was in Kampala under treatment in what was known as Chiseka Hospital, downtown, the regime never got to know that I was there. So that's false.
Right under their nose?
Yeah, oh yeah. I was there for 1 month. And the only place where I think I went other than that specific location was at Cementi, where I was taken for an X-ray, and then went back to Chiseka Hospital. But the regime never found out. And then I went back to the bush. So that's a correction. However, on the issue
you may
of...
think that's what maybe that's what you thought.
Well, that's what I knew.
But it's true that your father was a greater friend of Dr. Milton Obote.
Yeah, absolutely. That one I don't deny.
Yeah, but you could also have thought that they don't know, yet they know.
No, if they had known, they certainly would have come to pick me, because I don't think...
that would be a betrayal.
I don't think that
that would be a betrayal of Mr. Montoyera.
I don't think that many were happy that I was in the bush in the first place because of that association with my father. But I never went, it was nothing personal, really. It was a question of the analysis that I had made. I reached a conclusion that I needed to engage in fighting and create change, where we went and fought and took power. But now we are going into another round of fighting again, another dictatorship which established itself when we had captured power, thinking that that was going to be the breakout of the vicious cycle that we had engaged in since 1962. Now the one of being saluted by police or by the army, I hear that quite a lot. And well, unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that, because if I meet officers and men in uniform, whether it's in the army, whether it's in the police, for whatever reason, if they respect me by saluting me, what on earth am I supposed to do? Because I think most of them accord me.
Does it bother you?
But do you really think that they took them somewhere and gave them an order that when you meet General Muntu, you salute him? Really? Where would they pass such an order and it remains a secret? I can't even understand people who think like that.
As a general, former retired general and former army commander, how would you leverage on the fact that it appears, whereas the men in uniform seem to harass other people, for you they salute, and maybe that's a great attribute you have, and maybe you can leverage on that?
Well, it's not everybody who salutes me. There are those who meet me, they don't salute me. But there is a significant number of them who, when they meet me, they salute me. And I have no problem with that. Well,
does it bother you, General Muntu, when people...
I commanded the army from 89 to 98. And many officers and men who served in UPDF, you know,
so within that period. I'm a commander for 9 years.
Within that period, accord me respect. And I don't see any problem with that. The police used to relate a lot when I was in command of the army. We tried the best we could to build good relations between the UPDF and the police, in spite of the challenges that we met. quite a significant number of them maybe respect me for that. There's nothing I can do about that. Whoever misunderstands it, I have no problem with whoever misunderstands that. Let's leave it to time.
Okay.
We'll sort it out.
But does it bother you that maybe at one point you are so misunderstood in many of them?
I really, to be honest with you, if I was to let myself be diverted by people who misunderstand me, there is absolutely no way I would ever do the things that I do. I focus on the things that I believe are the right things to be done. And if they are right, and I believe they are, we keep on expanding. Because it's not even about me, really. It's the things that I subscribe to, the ideas, the values that I subscribe to right now within the Alliance. It's what has brought us together. Alliance is not my making. Alliance is a composition of people who believe in value-based politics. And I am happy, to be honest with you, where we are. Because when I see the response, so many people are coming within Alliance who have never been in parties at all. And it's uniform. We keep picking it from all over the place where we go. People who are saying, okay, we think you guys are on the right track. Let's come and join hands and see how we can build a country which is, whose politics is run based on a foundation of values and ideals and principles.
A presidential campaign, I can imagine, is financially draining. Any campaign is a monumental challenge. And even when you're moving around meeting Ugandans and maybe explaining your ideology, one wonders, where are you getting resources? General Muntu, who's your quartermaster?
We've just done 6 sub-regional meetings.
Yeah.
We've got 21 sub-regions.
That's colossal sums of money.
Right now, we're trying to mobilize resources to be able to complete even the 15. If anything, I believe at some point we'll have to go public and start asking for monies from the public, because we are trying to, advance this cause, which we believe so many people subscribe to. So it's not as if we have, a source of ready cash. If we had it, let me tell you, there would be a political earthquake going on in this country, if we had the resources that we desire to have.
So money is your problem?
Pardon? Money
is your challenge now, resources?
It will be solved. We think it's a temporary problem.
Because you said if you had it, probably there would be an earthquake. In other words, you'd be shaking everything.
It's a temporary problem.
Okay, now let's go to the real stuff. A majority of young people are unemployed. In fact, quite a number of people are also unemployable.
Yeah.
And the situation is dire. What is the Alliance for National Transformation strategy to ensure that, just in case people gave you the mandate, you can ensure the young people have jobs, even those who, I'm told, are unemployable, are employable? Because that's our biggest challenge.
Invest in education. Invest in health, so that you have got skilled and knowledgeable and educated manpower, but also healthy manpower. Then invest in the things that create the environment for people to be able to exploit their entrepreneurial skills, to develop in the areas where they are good at. Those who are in agriculture, go in agriculture. Those who are in industry, go in industry, with all the support infrastructure that is needed. And when they succeed, they create jobs. And they keep on expanding. You have to create that environment, not only for the foreign direct investment, as it seems to be the case with this regime, but more so for domestic investment. You have to invest in the Ugandan people. Because in a society where you find that the significant holding, or the majority of the holding in the economy is foreign-based, that economy is really on very, very shaky ground. I have seen in situations like in the Far East when they were hit by an international crisis. A country like Thailand really went down. Countries that have got more investment of the domestic people, they will be able to weather such international crises. Because the tendency so far, when you study what happens in many economies, when there's a problem or turbulence within an economy, those who are domestic tend to remain in there. But also for healthy reasons. I mean, you need to ensure that when you are building an economy like in our African countries, 70% of our population is in agriculture. You want to develop a country like this in economic terms, you've got to put resources into agriculture to ensure that you move people from subsistence to...
so when you talk of the economy being in the hands of foreigners,
Yes.
Because I immediately think about the telecom industry, for example, the banking industry and the insurance and all that. So Alliance for National Transformation, if you were to be given mandate 2021, would you nationalize some of these?
No. They're a component. They're a component because there are areas where you cannot easily compete right now. In terms of technological developments, you find that we don't have entrepreneurs who have reached that level yet. But there are areas, as they call them...
So you would preside over more of the same?
No, absolutely not. Invest in agriculture. In agriculture, 70% of our population is in agriculture. So you must ensure that there are a number of areas within agriculture that you invest in. You must ensure that you invest in irrigation, invest in introduction of modern farming techniques, and financing, low interest rate, long-term payment periods. I don't see how a country like Uganda should not have an agricultural bank which would be established for purposes of that nature. You have got to ensure that they are improved seeds.
You know what you're
You've
saying
got to ensure that
is really easier said than done.
You resuscitate the agricultural extension services, which were quite effective in the past, which have almost literally collapsed. You've got to work on the marketing, and then you've got to work on things like fertilizer. You've got to ensure that all these requirements, which if you invest in and also create the environment where there is stability in the first place, that therefore people, when there's on the production side, then you can get people who are going to come and invest in agro-processing.
All right,
and when it comes to that, there are many Ugandans who go into those areas, and you do not have to muscle them out by getting people to come and grow maize here from outside, or come and grow rice here from outside, or even go into agro-processing. Ugandans can do that.
All right,
maybe the foreigners can go into things like the high-tech industries where Ugandans are not able to compete as yet.
General Muntu, hold on to your point because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'll be asking, because you've been traveling the country, what have you seen? What have you heard? I would want you to take us through what your experience. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is General Mugisha Muntu, who is National Coordinator of the Alliance for National Transformation. Since the launch, you have been traversing several parts of the country. You've been in the islands of Buvuma, you've been in Hoima, you've been in Lira, among other places. Yeah. What's the reception for Alliance for National Transformation? And I would want to know, what have you seen, what have you heard in terms of people's livelihoods, the real... If you can tell us the pulse of our country now.
Well, the reception is quite good in all the places where we've been so far to 6 sub-regions. Bunyoro, Lango, Teso, Busoga, Eastern Buganda, and Ankole. We are remaining with 15 sub-regions. All the places where we've been, the reception has been good. Been meeting with our coordinators from the districts in each sub-region. We intend to finish with this first phase, then go in the second phase, we'll go deeper, lower than the districts. And we believe that within possibly October, if it be the will of God, we'll be able to embark on the second phase, which will take us possibly about 3 to 4 months.
And what kind of, if you are to gauge in terms of people's livelihoods, how the economy, how the economy is working in those local areas, and
people are hurting. You know, people are being hit from different sides. One, the joblessness of the youth, because ordinarily when parents sacrifice, they send their children to school. Some of them sell what they have, maybe cows or sheep or goats, or sell part of their land, and when the children go to school, they finish school and they go and get jobs, then most time they sustain the family. This time around, they do all that, and then the children go, they finish universities, they finish higher levels of, in the tertiary institution, they find they have no jobs. So it becomes an extra burden. And then there are costs of education, costs of health services, and the unstable prices for a number of products that people engage in, whether it's crops, whether it is those who are involved in animal husbandry, unstable prices, so like those who are in maize. At some point, maybe they have expectation that they will get good returns on their investment in maize. And then when they go in and grow maize, a lot of maize, and there is oversupply, the prices simply collapse. Because there are no mechanisms for stabilizing prices in the agricultural sector. Those who are, for example, like now in milk, at some point you find they're getting 1,000 plus. And then the prices collapse. They get down like to 500. And then you find a crisis. And at times crops are hit by diseases. The services for investigating diseases and getting a cure and having efficient extension services where diseases are controlled or eliminated are non-existent. These peasants just have to survive on their own. And if you're a peasant, you can imagine, and an area is hit by, maybe it's a disease that hits maize or cassava. What do you do? Where do you go? Ordinarily, that is supposed to be a government service.
Okay,
those who are, in example, in cows, the areas which have been hit by
foot and mouth.
Not only foot and mouth, there are now ticks which cannot be eliminated using the acaricides which have been on the market. There are no control mechanisms for ensuring that the acaricides which come on the market are
effective in
eliminating ticks.
You know,
when you have a weak extension service, or in this case maybe the agricultural service, which is quite underfunded, then this peasant is hit, whether they are in crop husbandry, whether they are in animal husbandry. And therefore, that leads to the levels of poverty which are causing a problem for people.
Of agriculture,
yes.
Many people in the opposition, I even hear it also in the civil society and the government trying to say, we are going to provide water for production. Water for production, I'm looking at a peasant farmer who is in subsistence farming.
Yes.
What kind of water are you going to give for production for such an individual with 1 acre? Honestly, you're not talking about irrigation, are you?
You know, it depends on where you are. Because, for example, there are many peasants along many water bodies. River Nile from Jinja until Nimule. I'm not aware of any irrigation scheme along River Nile. And there are many peasants along that. River Aswa, River Mayanja, River Mpanga, River. There are so many rivers in this country.
So you're saying that yes, it is possible for somebody around River Kagera or somewhere River Mayanja to put some kind of a technology that's going to take water 2 or 3 sub-counties away and give them, and then that's practical for a peasant farmer? Will it even make economic sense,
yes,
for you to pump water from River Kagera to a farmer who is maybe 15 kilometers away, who is subsistence farming, and it makes economic sense?
Yeah, it does. Depends on how the research that is done by government bodies, which would be responsible to do that, and they'll be able to do the feasibility studies and design the responses that would be appropriate for ensuring that farmers can be able to do that and get good returns on investment. Irrigation is like infrastructure, like a road.
Yes, it is. But I'm thinking, if you're a big-time farmer,
yes,
for example, we have seen irrigation work in Kibimba, I've seen
yes,
work in Mubuku,
yes,
but you can see that these are large-scale organized agriculture farms. But majority of our people are subsistence farming, having an acre or 2. And I'm wondering how these people can be also reached using what you call water for production.
Kenya does it. If you go to some of these countries which are more focused in the areas of agriculture, you find that they have developed technologies, or they have gone to other countries that have developed such technologies that will be able to help small-scale farmers, those who operate on 1 acre, 2 acres. More than 2,000 years ago, at least when we were in primary school, we used to read about shaduf, which was being used by Egyptians 2,000 years ago. Of course, we have had the collapse of the cooperative unions. That would be also another area where you'd have so many people who are in an area of investment, putting resources
many have said agriculture, tourism,
and with the intervention of government.
You call them the low-hanging fruits.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, for those who are managing the affairs of Uganda's economy today,
yes,
don't they see it, or they just don't get it?
I think they care about self-advancement. I think that is the biggest disease
General
that I
Muntu,
notice. Yes.
Probably it is also easier said to your side than done.
No, look, we have seen cooperatives work in many countries. Even here in Uganda, there's a time when cooperatives were, quite not as efficient as they could have been. They also had their own challenges, but the focus should have been on how to resolve those challenges and make them become better and better. And of course, when you have cooperatives which are efficient, that's where you'd find that peasants who are involved in whatever crop, like in those who, at that time, coffee. I mean, you had peasants who would have only 1 acre, maybe others 2 acres. And most times it would be intercropped in banana plantations. So you'd find that the cooperative, in this case, pouring resources of many people, and also government intervening if there is a sensible government, to be able to confront problems of that nature and be able to resolve them. There are new technologies all over the world now which can be adopted to our own use. So
when you have been traversing these 6 sub-regions of Uganda, and you have 15 more to go, it appears you're only meeting your coordinators and people from Alliance for National Transformation, but for you to really create a game change, you must be meeting both NRM and FDC and whoever, so that you can have people to recruit. You can't be going around the country making sense, but only making sense to yourselves.
The initial phase is create leadership at the levels at which we would want to build the Alliance branch networks. And then the second phase is to outreach for recruitment. But you must start with leadership. At least you must be able to go to an area and you know that you have got people there who are going to organize for the party. And that's what we started with.
You're again going back to your modus operandi, grassroots building, creating leadership at the grassroots. Before you know it, even time is going. And I say, I am building grassroots. That's what happened in your former party. You're building grassroots and asking, where are they?
There was
because that looks like your modus operandi that some people say is not bringing results.
We have no problem. We are convinced about it and nothing is going to divert us from it. Unfortunately, that time when we were still in FDC, we had contention as which works. And fortunately, we separated, so I don't think there's any more contention. So whatever is to work, if it works, it will work. What won't work, it will become self-evident.
But also, it is also possible. I've also seen some of your members, especially where I come from, who have joined you, are from your former party. You have really cannibalized on FDC.
No. They were basically like 2 parties in one. Now we could have harmonized. Unfortunately, we didn't have the capabilities to harmonize 2 different strategies, which in themselves were not contradictory. But that's a subject for another time. I don't think we can engage in that. Now that we are separate, we really believe that the colleagues in Naja and Nkumbi can concentrate and build around civil disobedience and defiance, as it is called. And then we'll concentrate on the strategy that we believe in. At least there's no more contention. And I really don't see even any reason why there would be conflict. People are now comfortable, at least for us. I can speak for the Alliance. We are comfortable with what we are doing. Anybody who criticizes us, we have no problem with that. Because we believe that what we are doing is the correct path that we have chosen. And we know that the outcomes of it are going to become self-evident down the road. That's why we don't sweat when people go, saying all kinds of things.
I've heard some people say that you have been frequenting Magere at the home of the Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, holding talks with his People Power movement. And what is going on?
We meet amongst ourselves. We've been meeting with Honorable Bobby Wine and a team of People Power leaders. We've been meeting with Chairman Mao, Honorable Mao, DP. We've been meeting with the Honorable Asarwa, Jema. We want to keep on interacting so that we build bridges of trust amongst our different political formations. so that as we move towards 2021, that we at least would have created a foundation on the basis of which there can be that type of trust that will lead us into building a formidable coalition.
You know, you in the Alliance for National Transformation and Honorable Mao and Honorable Jem and the other people have stood out in Ugandan politics. But Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi has even come out even to tell his people in Chadondo that this is the last time he's representing them as a member of parliament because he's going for the presidency. He's been crystal clear.
Yes.
And so are we likely to see people like Muntu and the rest, galvanizing support, going around, coalescing around the movement of people power and giving him support so that he can be the one on the ballot to come 2021?
I believe that Honorable Kyagulanyi and people power are using it as a tool for mobilization. And it's legitimate, and we have expressed so to our colleagues in the people power that we have no problem with that. They should go ahead and mobilize, because as long as all of us keep on mobilizing for a common purpose of regime change, then it adds value to what we are doing.
He's not only mobilized, but he has made his intention so clear. Yeah. And I'm asking whether you will be willing to go behind him.
You see, I'm coming. You see, you can express your intentions, and it's legitimate, and then mobilize around that. Our approach is different in the alliance. We believe down the road we will go into having anybody who will come out to become a flag bearer. And in the process of building relationships with other organizations, we should have established the levels of trust where we'll have a mechanism in determining who holds the flag for the whole coalition. But our approach is that ours should come at the tail end, because we are a young party. We didn't want our attention to be diverted and remove our focus from the things which we think are necessary to enable us to build the capability to oust the regime. And those are the branch networks we are talking about. The branding of the organization, the mobilization of resources.
You seem to have a
strategy. You can imagine, like now, if any of us, whether it is Muntu or Ali Salaso or Barbara Almadi or anybody within Alliance, came out and said, I want to run for the Alliance flag. And even if we all accepted and said, okay, that is our focal person, the likelihood that we will now be diverted in that as a young organization is quite high. And yet we know that whoever we would raise as the flag bearer, and then if we get lost into that, it may divert our attention from doing the things which would be necessary.
But you can also deny yourself from momentum
to propel
that can come with something like that.
Momentum, we believe in the alliance, that it will come from below. From that councillor LC3, that councillor LC5, the LC3 chairperson, LC5 chairperson, member of parliament constituency, member of parliament woman, the mayors. Now, once you have the candidates, good candidates, you have good party infrastructure, and you attract resources, and you put these things together, and you start from there around those candidates, you build momentum which can be put behind the flag bearer. Yes.
Many people would believe that form and substance have to move together.
Yeah.
You can have substance, yes, but you also have some kind of form, create a buzz, project yourself, go on the farm, on the charm offensive. So it's politics.
No, our choice is different, and we believe in it, and we'll pursue that. But we have no problem whatsoever with all other colleagues who have chosen to use different methods. As long as whatever method each of any of our groups uses builds strength, and then we bring these strengths together. We absolutely,
for example, the Electoral Commission now. The Electoral Commission now is currently doing demarcation, new polling stations. How is your party, the Alliance for National Transformation, aligning its activities and with the election roadmap that's already out?
Come again?
There is already the Electoral Commission is currently making demarcation and putting a new polling station out.
Yes.
And we suppose that your party should also be aligning itself towards those.
In fact, we have a team which is going to be making responses. Hopefully, we'll have a joint presentation from the opposition parties. We hope that will be the case. If it's not the case, we still have a team which will be able to make presentations in regard to the electoral reforms that are required. And in regard to electoral roadmap, we are already trying to see how to, it was given really at short notice. Okay, they have also made adjustments. That would be no problem. We can catch up with a number of things which are supposed to be done around now and as we move towards 2020, 2021. That's not the main problem. The main problem is the character of the regime and the nature of manipulating the electoral commission. That's the biggest problem. And that's what we have to keep on working to ensure that we can forestall it or we can resist it, hopefully effectively. But we also cannot fully depend on the trustworthiness or the professionalism or what one would maybe desire to see, a neutral electoral commission. I highly doubt whether we will have that, considering what we have seen in the past, also considering what we already see happening. So we must build our capabilities to the extent that in spite of any unleveled ground in which we would be operating for 2021, that in spite of an unleveled ground, that we're able to overwhelm the regime. So to me, with the background that I have in the army, which is different, of course, from politics, because politics, there's a tendency to spend more time in trying to see that there is leveled ground, and when the ground is not leveled, to get a sense of defeat, because you think now that the ground has not been leveled, it's going to be to my disadvantage, which is the case. But in the army, you can never expect the ground to be leveled. You are fighting against an opponent, and you know that they are going to use all means possible to eliminate you. They will ambush you. They want to take the highest ground and put their heavy weapons on high ground.
There's even a proverb in my language.
Yes.
Only that cannot say it properly. You're fighting with somebody, you cannot say, please, don't put me on a thorny ground. Well, I could have used another word. But you cannot be fighting with somebody when you're wrestling and say, in this wrestling, make sure you don't throw me on a stone.
Because I don't see how we can expect any fair play from the other side.
It cannot be.
I don't see.
You know, recently, Parliament granted leave to the Ndorwa East Member of Parliament, Wilfred Nwagaba, to introduce a bill seeking an amendment to the Constitution. One of the proposals is to have the army representatives withdrawn from Parliament. As a former army commander, would you support that?
I actually made a presentation in 2004 before a committee of Defense and Internal Affairs. I believe that time it was chaired by Honorable Simon Mayende. Because we had changed the system of governance from the movement system to multi-party system of governance. And to me, I thought that it would be automatic that the army goes back into the barracks. Tanzania had 10 army representatives, TPDF, in parliament. The moment they opened up space for multi-party system of governance, they never even had debate. It was like, it was automatic. The army went back into barracks. Because we believe that, one, it preserves the army. Because it doesn't get entangled in the partisan politics
of Uganda.
Of Uganda. But the nature of the regime is that they seem not to care about that. We are the ones who are going to do that. I doubt whether they are going to send them back to the barracks. But certainly we will. The army needs to be immunized. The army needs to be, non-partisan. Political, but non-partisan. And there's no way you can immunize it is ensure it is out of parliament where there are partisan interests vying for space and for supremacy.
Do you still talk to your friends in the army?
Well, once in a while I bump into them.
They buy your cause?
Well, I'm not so, I don't think that they are that free to discuss some of the,
Some of them were bosom friends, your acquaintances, so why would they not be free with you?
Well, the situation we're operating within is quite complex.
They're intimidated?
I actually feel for them, those who are still in uniform.
Are they intimidated?
Well, the environment in which they are operating is quite complex.
What do you make as a
you see, there are many are educated. Many are also highly trained in military terms. Many have the capability to do analysis of what is happening. Many have the capability to make comparisons where there have been failed states. They know the causes of failed states. And I think they can see the situation as we see it, as we interpret it. I don't think that many of them interpret it any different. But the question is what to do.
What do you make of some of these military officers, senior military officers, who have almost been held at ransom in the army because they want to quit, but they cannot quit? Yeah. As a former army commander, I can even maybe off-head get an example. There's a gentleman who even commanded the AMISOM force in Mogadishu. He was a deputy head of military intelligence at some point, artillery and air defense in Masindi. I think he was also Joint Chief of Staff. I'm talking about Major General Freddy Mugisha, your namesake. A man, I gather, who has even written to be let free to go. And they haven't let him to go, and yet he's not even like seriously deployed. You're a former army commander. What do you make of such scenarios, such cases? What happens?
That's the complex of the situation that I'm talking about. Because there are many, I believe, who would want to retire, but for different reasons, they are not being released. And I think at the center of it, at the core of it, is politics. But the moment you sort out the politics, then many will be free to retire and go do whatever they want to do.
Earlier, when I talked about you traversing the country and what you're able to see and hear, you talked about the health situation. And I want to bring to your attention and also seek you, maybe get to know what Alliance for National Transformation could do in the area of medical. Because today, God forbid, should somebody get sick or your loved one is sick and you are admitted in a hospital anywhere in Kampala here, good medium hospital, for a week or two, your bill will go almost 20 million.
Yeah.
And that's like any hospital. Yeah. Should you be there, God forbid, should you even go in ICU, a week or 3, your bill will go to 50 million.
Yeah.
And that, as if there's a general brokenness of the entire system. But when it comes to the health system, I wonder what Alliance could do to sort that situation, because it bothers many people. Yeah. People can never have that kind of money, and yet people fall sick every day.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It is, because most times you get many people, who, come to solicit for help in case of that nature, genuinely. I mean, you can imagine, like, a pregnant woman is about to give birth, but they have to do cesarean. And they want money up front. And if a person doesn't have that kind of money, because at times they ask for 1 million, 2 million, it's a crisis. It's anyway, the core of the problem is politics. Until we get people who really care about the country, who are able to take power and start almost in some cases building from scratch, in others building on whatever they found already established, and also reversing the trends that there are. Because if you look, for example, in the health sector, okay, there are many buildings now which are supposed to be health centers and are supposed to be hospitals, but you get a problem of equipment, you get a problem of health workers who are not motivated because they are not well paid. Then you have a problem of drugs. One, the investment in terms of resources, financial resources, is not adequate. But again, the problem of corruption. Even where you have drugs, but they do not reach. Or when they reach, people who are supposed to get these drugs free have to buy them. It's a problem. And that's why those of us who are in the opposition have to prepare for that. Because the day General Museveni gets out of power, that's the situation that we are going to be confronted with. Now, dealing with it requires us to be thinking beforehand, even before we get into it. Because it requires high levels of discipline to focus on all these areas where systems have collapsed. You can imagine to deal with education, deal with health, deal with agriculture, deal with the issues of joblessness, requires high levels of organization and high levels of discipline. Absolutely.
General Muntu, we are going
so
to
when we are building systems, which most people say, what are you people doing? We are preparing because we know that's the situation we're going to be confronted with. Because we know, for us in the alliance, that General Museveni is a symptom of a bigger problem. And the moment he gets out, which is obvious that he will, that we had better be prepared in how to get the situation that we are in now, get the country out of the mess that we are in right now.
General Muntu, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'll open the line so that you too can be a part of this discussion. But I also want to know from you what we need to do, because we have seen a lot of rampant kidnaps and murders across the country. What needs to be done? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is the National Coordinator of the Alliance for National Transformation, General Mugisha Muntu. And we are seeing rampant kidnaps and murders across the country. What needs to be done, General Muntu?
Again, we have a problem within the system. I normally hear whenever there are these cases that arise, the regime comes out and spells out a formula that it will put in place to resolve the problems. But most times you really need to know the intentions of any government only when you look at the budget. Not what the regime is saying, whether it's the president, whether it's the minister in that sector, whether it's a spokesperson of government. And every time they say whatever they say, and then you go look into the budget, you clearly know that they are simply
but look, we now have
not
more
serious
assets
in what they are
on
saying.
The ground and
Yes.
boots on the ground.
Yes.
We have a lot of assets in terms of cameras, in terms of equipment. We have more boots on the ground in terms of LODUs. Our capacity, or the capacity of the men in uniform, has really been enhanced, in my view.
You look in the budget, see how much is put in the Criminal Investigation Department. Look in the budget what is put in the Ministry of Justice. Because if fighting crime there has to be a closed circuit. You have to look at the criminal investigation department for the police. You've got to look at the prosecutions department. You also have to look at the judiciary. Because you have got the arm that investigates and arrests. Then you must have the arm which prosecutes. And then the one which makes judgment. And then you know that now the criminal will be put behind bars. And it will serve two things. One, other criminals will fear. Two, the affected people will get a sense of justice having been administered. Now, if you look and you invest in cameras, you have not invested in the manpower, in the police force first, because the kind of, I don't know, I have had no access, I have not seen it talked about. For example, the manpower that is behind analysis of the raw intelligence that it is picked from all these sources that they are, the electronic sources that they are deploying. Because even if you have cameras, if you don't have a number of staff who are going to be looking at those cameras 24/7, doing analysis, making follow-ups, Two, even when the human factor is dealt with in terms of numbers of the people that would be there, are they motivated? I've been seeing in the press, I don't know whether it's true or not true, where people have gone and said there's a crime here and there's no response from the police. They don't go checking. So if you don't do that, the last time I looked at CID, the budget was around 2 billion. I don't know whether this year it was raised. A criminal investigation department with 2 billion, I don't think that can even buy fuel for the CID stations all over this country. So how would you expect that if you don't get a criminal and a suspect who knows that the moment he or she commits a crime, that whether it is 1 month, whether it is 6 months, whether it is 1 year or 2 years, that they will be caught,
Has there been a sense?
They will be prosecuted, and they will be convicted. And therefore it creates fear in others. Look at the budget. I just looked at some figures. The judiciary this year has 151.2 billion, the budget of the whole of judiciary. Compare that with State House this year, 401 billion. Last year it was 274. The difference between the State House budget and the judiciary is 250 billion. So you can see where priorities are. That is before you look at, there's also what they call presidential donation, President's Office donation budget.
And that's not in
200 billion. So where are the priorities? Fighting crime or maintaining a person in power?
Hasn't there also been a problem of maybe men in uniform losing touch with the people? Because I can imagine the community, if the community was involved and there's some kind of community policing, also people being vibrant, a vibrant citizenry that can work alongside the police and the security forces to give them intelligence so that can work together. Maybe that's what is missing.
Okay. You arrest a suspect. You take him or her in the police cells. 48 hours, they're supposed to be released. Well, even if they don't care, like they don't care about that law. Even if he's there 1 week, even if he's there 2 weeks, even if he's there 1 month, eventually, if you don't have qualified, well-trained CID officers who are going to investigate and therefore be able to pass on a file which can be used for successful prosecution, these criminals will go back on the street. That's what the biggest problem is. The judiciary required money to expand their staff. I think they required 100 more staff, judges, magistrates. They didn't get that. They had, of the 151 billion, 34 billion is for wages. 12 billion is in arrears that are not yet fully paid. But there's 200 billion for donations by the president. The priorities are upside down.
This money is also appropriated and allocated by Parliament.
Yeah, the majority of them are in the ruling party. Actually, I really doubt whether we have seen the worst yet, unfortunately.
That's so scary.
Well,
our time is almost out, so I'll be maybe asking you, making your closing arguments about this and where you see alliance headed in the next couple, just maybe if it is possible to fight for power or compete for power, you just have less than a year.
Yeah. It's a short time. We're going to dedicate all our time and effort in ensuring that we're in every village, every parish, every sub-county. and that we also brand the party to be attractive, to attract both human as well as financial resources. Because we want to have the capability to have candidates at all levels. But also ensure that we are flexible enough to work with other political organizations so that we can have a coalition where it is necessary to have different candidates. But we must first and foremost be capable of fielding 100%. That doesn't mean that we would field 100%, because if we find that now instead of fielding an empty person, it needs to field a person of a different political formation, then we do that. But our intention is to build that capability to be 100%.
General Mugisha Muntu, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your insights on the matter. We're looking forward to see what Alliance for National Transformation can do. I've just picked one thing, bringing sanity and value and discipline into the Ugandan politics, sort of sanitizing them. Yeah. That seems to be what you're talking about. And I think you have the goodwill of the Ugandan people, as a gentleman that you have always been. And if you can work together, even when you fight amongst yourselves, whether it is political parties or NRM, I know it's not that because you hate each other. I think it's because you love your country more. Thank you very much, General Muntu.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
And by God's grace, I know we'll fulfill what we intend to do.
Good night, and God bless Uganda.